everyone. Good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondial. As always, it is good to see you. The war in Ukraine has now gone on for 30 bloody days. Every reasonable calculation was that it would wrap up in 3, maximum 4 days, given Russia's military might. It hasn't. It grinds on, putting a question on Russia's baffling war strategy. Has the Russian might been overestimated by the world? Is their arsenal of precision-guided munition and fourth-generation fighters not as vast as everyone thought? It is clear that there have been planning failures, but is there a problem with the morale of Russia's forces as well? That is what we are focusing on our last episode of Debrief today. Let's start, though, with a string of NATO meetings in Brussels and the proposal to banish Russia from the G20, both of which, just by the way, have not made an iota of a difference to Mr. Putin's intentions and actions in Ukraine.
NATO has never been more united than it is today.
We will not stand by while Putin vents his fury on Ukraine. I've rarely seen our nations more united in recent years than we are now.
Security doesn't come for free, and doing war will cost more. So NATO leaders agreed to redouble efforts to meet the defense investment pledge we made in 2014.
Putin is getting exactly the opposite what he intended to have as a consequence of going into Ukraine.
Strong statements coming in against Russia for Ukraine. At an emergency NATO summit in Brussels, the leaders of the West united like never before to warn Vladimir Putin. But a few thousand kilometers away, these warnings seem to have been buried under the noise of shellings and bombing as Russia continues to march into its second month of a senseless invasion. On the front lines, there's only rubble and human devastation. In the once thriving port city of Mariupol, this teen has witnessed the death of his mother.
I just remember, I woke up in road, I see the broken car, and I see my mother going in fire.
The Russian offensive is at its peak in Mariupol because the city is vital to its plans of linking its pincer offensives from the Russian-controlled Crimean Peninsula and Kharkiv region, as well as the separatist-run Donetsk and Luhansk areas in the Donbas region. But where the Russian army is being stifled is in areas north of Kiev and south of Mykolaiv, where the Ukrainian defense has pushed back. But their reserves are running thin, which is why the Ukrainian president continues to push for more assistance as his US counterpart heads to Poland.
I just want you to know that the alliance can save Ukrainian lives from Russia's strikes.
1 month has already passed by, but the war in Ukraine is no way close to reaching its apex. Ritanksh Bhattacharya for CNN News 18.
And that is largely for 2 big reasons. One, the spirited fight back Ukraine has put up. No one expected it. And secondly, Russia's military strategy that has been baffling, or if you want to be kind or unkind to the Russians, a blunder. Sameer Joshi is a military strategist. He's someone who's been an Indian Air Force pilot as well. He's been looking at Russia's tactics on the ground and in the sky for the last 30 days, joining us on the show. What we're going to have is a bit of a technical discussion, but it will help you understand why Russia hasn't achieved its goal so far 30 days on, given its military might. Sameer, thank you very much for your time. You have argued that Russia has got its military strategy completely wrong in Ukraine. Why do you say that?
The Russians are not they don't have a lot of manpower. So they realize that to take on NATO, and remember that Russia is against the full consortium of NATO. They have to get very mean combined arm units, which now what they call battalion tactical groups, which are made up of mechanized troops and integrated with the armor, air defense, artillery, tubed and rocket engineers and other logistics elements. So these are embedded along with the basic tank regiments, and these are supposed to carry out the deep operations that the Russian army is trained for. There has been an apparent failure of the Russian army to conduct deep operations and capture, large areas of Ukraine, which includes these centers of the primary targets. Kyiv is one, Kharkov is one, and even expanding towards the other side, going forward. And again, this is a failure on the planning side. Okay, I'll say the Russian General Staff has not been operationally oriented towards operations inside Ukraine. They have just not been able to exploit their warfare philosophy as such and utilize the combat power of these battle groups. There are various reasons to this, which we can discuss later.
But if you just look at the power differential, Samir, between the two countries, all it will take Russia to change the course of this war is to send in reinforcements and adjust some tactics. And we have seen them do that in the last couple of weeks at least.
Shreya, Russia has limited and finite power, military power. Again, when we talk of these battle groups and the various units supporting them, let's say they had a combined force of about 170 battalion tactical groups, which are organized as these battle groups, out of which they've committed close to about 87 to 90 of them already. That means the force which was enveloping Ukraine before the war started, 24th of February, that force has already been expended. And for various reasons, that force has not been able to convert its initial offensive into substantial aims and objectives which were to be achieved for the Russians. So, however, having said that, the Russians have penetrated to an extent. They have kind of they penetrated in depth right till the outskirts of Kyiv. They have penetrated, and rather they have outskirted, areas like Kharkov in the north, but they are very much, their presence is there. And the idea is that they are still poised in a very good position to capture large swaths of Ukrainian land. On the southern side, it has been much better. They've captured Kherson. They are eyeing Odessa to the left. The idea is build a bridge from Odessa, right, from Kherson, then Mykolaiv, going forward to Donbass, and then capturing Kyiv and Kharkov together. But all this is subject to additional troops, because once that they are there now, they kind of need to hold on to the areas. So for that, they need troops. And when I say troops, these are infantrymen. These are not specialist troops like airborne infantry or airborne special forces, which you're going to waste doing such duties. Where is this manpower coming from? There are indications that a lot of manpower is being mobilized from other parts of Russia and being sent there. That is one part. Now, the second aspect is, Russia also faces a large-scale threat from NATO. So will it be able to send more substantial reinforcements into Ukraine? That is the larger question. The war is not over. Russian army is a very strong army, but they are against a very tough opponent, which is Ukraine. And remember, they're supported by the West, which includes their intelligence and other aspects, which is, as soon as any Russian army convoy moves towards or gets inside Ukraine, the Ukrainian army knows.
Samir, since you have been an Indian Air Force pilot, I want to ask you about the curious case of the Russian Air Force. In the first 2 weeks of the war, actually, they were practically missing when everyone had expected a blistering attack on Ukraine by air. They have lost helicopters, they have lost fighter jets as well to an Air Force that is minute by comparison, and bafflingly, Air Force that has come under much attack but is still flying.
Yeah, again, a precursor to this question is how the Russian Air Force operates. So Shreya, Russian Air Force is not like any other Western Air Force, or even like the Indian Air Force. For context, they are not a multi-role Air Force. If, let's say, they have an aircraft which is to be used for air defense duties, it is very difficult or very implausible that the pilot would have trained against a ground attack function also. Second, very important to remember is that the Russian Air Force is subjugated under the military districts they are not independently, focused on carrying out their vision, their aim, their objectives. And that is exactly why the initial foray into suppression of enemy air defense, which ideally any air force would have done for 3 to 4 days before the ground offensive would have started, never happened. Because the priority of the military districts was close air support for the offensive arms, offensive vectors, which were happening, in the initial few days. So a large component of this job was given to surface missiles and cruise missiles. And that is why you saw that, these were utilized to a great extent against so-called air defense target. The second major lacuna in the Russian Air Force is they simply don't have enough precision-guided munition. It is one thing is to make and sell it to the world. One thing is to procure it for yourself. The Russian Air Force has been on a rebuilding spree in the last few years. Let's be very, very clear that they do not have more than 400 of fourth generation plus aircraft, actually, between all regiments which they have, air regiments. When you don't have precision guided munition, you are utilizing a very precious platform, precious platform like the Su-34, which should be flying very high. You're actually making it come down low to drop bombs. So the corollary to this is that a large number of aircraft in the Russian arsenal, and including naval platforms. Remember, there was one Su-35 which was shot down, Su-30 rather, SM-2, which was shot down, which was from a naval air base in Crimea. Now, it was also involved in close air support duties, where it may be giving top cover to helicopters which are operating below. Now, talking of helicopters, these guys have, to be honest and to be fair to the Russian pilots, these guys have pressed home their attack with full intensity. But what do you do when you have more than 5 surface-to-air missiles, and especially the man-portable missiles coming for you, even if you are a helicopter or an aircraft? The chances of you getting shot down, they go up drastically. And we have seen a large number of these platforms being shot down.
Joe, my final question to you: when the now famous 64-kilometer long Russian convoy was approaching Kiev at a snail's pace, it was blamed on the low morale of the Russian soldiers. Would you dismiss that as Western and Ukrainian propaganda, or is there a ring of truth to it? And just for the context of our viewers, the Russian army is, not like the Indian army. It's not all just professionally trained soldiers. The Russian army also comprises of conscripts, where the morale problem was reported.
Any fighting formation is going to be affected in its capabilities to perform its duties. And this is why we see that at the first hint of trouble, these people will kind of just stop their vehicles and melt inside the forest and, go back. They will not wait for, if let's say they ran out of fuel, they'll not wait for the supply trucks to come, because they know that they're bona fide targets. So they don't have possibly that mental caliber needed to execute a very complex combined arms kind of battle, because they were never intended to do or have that. That was always to be done with the volunteer force. But unfortunately, Russia does not have those many so-called volunteers or professionals, which we are looking at. Now, this is not the case with their special forces, like the VDV, the airborne troops. They're very highly motivated troops. But then, because they're always used as the tip of the sword, they've lost a lot of their men. And you see the first day, they send troops to Hospital Airport just outside the Kyiv, about nearly 100 kilometers plus, 200 troops landed and they could never be supported. So all 200 were wiped up. So there were a lot of examples similarly in South, in Mykolaiv area. And this is the ground reality. I think the objectives and the way various units were to interface with each other, that was never managed very well. And this is where the troop morale, actually also affects down the line. Objectives are not clear, the timelines are not clear. I don't even know where I'm going. The food is bad. There is no weapons, enough weapons. There is no fuel for me. I can't communicate properly because it's not secure communication. I do not have top cover from my own air force. I do not know if I'm being targeted by drones, Ukrainian drones. And on the other side are the Ukrainians who are fighting for their land. who are lesser in numbers but have some very niche weapons which can take out heavy-duty tanks very easily. All they have to do is just target and melt away, go back. So look at the difference. And yes, they are motivated. They are motivated by the fact they have to defend their lands. So this is the difference in the motivation levels. And the Russians are facing the brunt of it.
They certainly are. The war has grinded on for 30 days now. Samir Joshi, thank you very much for your time here on Debrief today. Not just the Russian military strategy in Ukraine has it been baffling. What has also been baffling are some rather unexpected fallouts of this conflict. Take a look.
Don't be fooled by his rosy cheeks and wrinkle-free forehead. Vladimir Putin, who is pushing 70, has reportedly been getting Botox to keep that youthful appearance up. The rumors of Putin using Botox first came out in 2010 when he appeared for an event in Kiev sporting a massive blue and yellow bruise. The internet went wild, forcing the Kremlin to issue a denial. A trick of light was their justification. It is rumored that the Russian leader has gotten Botox injections in his forehead, an eye lift, a firming filler into his cheekbones, and possibly a chin lift. Cosmetic surgeons say Putin uses these treatments to look younger and maintain his tough guy image. But Putin's Botox days may well be behind him. If you attack a country, you lose the drugs that attack your wrinkles. The economic sanctions package imposed on Russia amid the invasion of Ukraine includes pharma companies. American drug maker AbbVie, which sells Botox, has temporarily suspended operations for all its aesthetic products in Russia. A popular running joke in Russia goes, in response to the charge that there are no new faces in Russian politics, Vladimir Putin got one. But Putin's Botox stash is not all that has faced the heat of the sanctions. A Russian oak tree, said to have been planted 198 years ago by novelist Ivan Turgenev, was axed from the European Tree of the Year competition. This year's winner was a 400-year-old Polish oak tree that organizers said had become a symbol of Polish resistance to aggression and its warm welcome to refugees from Ukraine. Natasha Menden for CNN News 18.
We live in an age where even trees are now political. With that, a quick break. Up next, a ground report on the refugee crisis that is brewing in Europe. Do stay with us. Welcome back. The United States is prepared to welcome 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. That announcement coming from President Joe Biden, who is visiting Poland. CNN's Miguel Marquez now speaking with refugees in Bucharest, Romania, who are trying everything, even dance therapy, as they heal and adapt to a new reality.
Dance therapy for Ukrainian moms and their children fleeing war.
How was the dancing, Igor?
Awesome.
You're a very good dancer.
Da.
The not exactly shy Yegor Lutsak, 5.5 years old, he and his mom, Tetiana, are from Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. Suffering indiscriminate Russian rocket and artillery attacks since the war's start.
How are you doing? How's he doing?
Что ты делаешь? Играю в солдатов.
I'm playing soldiers, he says. His mom adds,
Yes, всегда говорит повітряна.
yes, soldiers. He's always saying air raid.
If me and you were playing air raid now, how would we play?
Как ты бы играл, если бы сейчас?
Show them how you play, she says. I'm shooting at a tank, he says. Any tank I can hit.
How do you explain what is happening in Ukraine?
Всё видел. Он видел.
He saw everything, she says, and now he's repeating it. I think he'll play regular games when this is over and he calms down, games like cars and trains.
Паровозики.
No, no, says Yegor. It will be the same. I like it. Yegor, his mom, and godmother are one of dozens of families being housed by Jesuit Refugee Service and the local children's cancer charity, Magic Association.
The mothers, we see they can be tough when they're with their children, but when they come and speak to us privately, they break down.
You are a very good dancer.
Thank you.
Yelena and Sofia Orlova, 7 years old, arrived days ago from Dnipro. Russian attacks have been pushing toward and hitting the strategic Dnipro region. The city's population, nearly 1 million. Orlova and several of her relatives are now refugees, but not everyone. My son is 18 years old, she says. He has an injured leg, but wasn't allowed to cross the border. My son is in Ukraine. She can barely speak the words. Today's dance class, a welcome distraction. Today, this was a stress relief, she says. For 2 days, we didn't eat or sleep, and we're grateful to relax. The dance instructor, a refugee too. He fled war in Cameroon. I want them to feel joy, he says, because I know how it is to be in their places. It's very hard. It was very hard for me too. Sofia wanted to dance in Ukraine, but was too young. Today, a bit of hope. My dream, she says, came true. A simple activity bringing comfort to moms and kids, refugees, far from home.
On that positive note, it's a wrap on Debrief. It has been a privilege bringing you the show for the last 1 year. This will be our last episode. Thanks for watching. See you soon.